Hi, my name is Lilia. We need to get more girls involved with the STEM fields in order to be equal participants in the future generation of innovators and leaders. I reached out to inspiring role models who are paving the way for women around the world to hear about what they had to say on closing the gender gap. I guess just before we get started, it'd be great if you could just say a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Julia Parish-Morris, and I'm a research assistant professor of psychology and psychiatry at the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine. But what I do every day is research. So I study how children and adolescents and adults with autism spectrum disorder interact with one another using words. So I study language, but I also study kind of the pre-verbal precursors to language. So things like what babies do, like crying and cooing and babbling. And I'm interested in the way that verbal social interaction changes over the course of development, specifically in autism spectrum disorders, but then also in the co-occurring conditions that usually come along with autism. So things like ADHD or social anxiety, depression, all these are co-occurring conditions that have unique linguistic signatures that I'm interested in identifying.
Yeah, that's so cool. Definitely cool field to be in.
Yeah.
Seems like you're doing a lot of great things for like helping a bunch of people as well.
Yeah, I feel incredibly fortunate because I love what I do. So I feel like I've worked really hard to get where I am, and it's paying off because I love my job. So
I guess that's as good as you can get, loving what you do and then being good at it too is also good.
Yes, that's the goal, to be good at what I do. Yeah.
So I guess we can just jump into the questions. The first one was, do you think that women have a unique contribution to the STEM field? And if so, what is it?
Absolutely, I do. I I see this kind of in the broader context of the need for diversity in good science. So any area of science. Um, if you have only just one kind of person asking the questions, you're only really going to get one kind of question. And I personally know people who are fabulous scientists, who are wonderful people, really kind, great collaborators, but they just haven't had the life experience or the lived experience to know what kinds of questions might be relevant for demographic groups other than their own, or for socioeconomic groups other than their own. So, there's evidence from the National Institutes of Health, from a variety of different objective sources, that if you want to produce the best science in this world, you need to be producing it with a variety of minds, with a diversity of experiences in your team. And that diverse teams not only produce better science, but in business, they make more money. So diversity is not just a fad. It's not just something that, people do as a feel good pat on the back. Diversity is essential for excellence, period. And I think once we get into that mindset where we realize that having diverse teams and having diverse groups of people asking questions is really what's going to speed us ahead as a world, as a civilization, that's when we're going to see true advancements.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. I think people often overlook just not just like the emotional benefit or like the benefit kind of for the trend, but also for like just a business perspective. You can make more money, especially a lot of companies that market products to women don't even have women on the teams that do that, and it makes no sense. So it's definitely better for our economy as well. So I think that's a really good point.
Absolutely. And I work for one of the top children's hospitals in the country. And the reason why we're one of the top children's hospitals is because we produce cutting edge research in addition to excellent clinical care. But moving forward, that cutting edge research is going to have to, at its core, come from a diverse team of scientists in order to stay at the leading edge of research in this country.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. So I guess the next question was, upon reflection, was there a defining moment in your career that you could share with us?
That's a great question. So I thought about this in advance and I came up with, I don't know, like 10 defining moments, which is probably not what you're looking for. It kind of depends. Like there have been a number of pivot points, but a lot of them have had to do with me realizing that my own worth. And I've had a lot of really supportive mentors. I'm fortunate to come from an incredible set of parents who were very, very encouraging. I didn't come from a wealthy, privileged background. I mean, being white is pretty privileged, first of all, but coming from a wealthy background would have given me different opportunities. But as it was, I came from parents who told me I could do anything. And that was huge for me growing up. And then just, in college, in graduate school, realizing at multiple points that I'm just as good, if not better, than a lot of the people that are around me. And that was a hard thing for me to say initially, for me to value myself and say, I deserve that raise, I deserve that promotion, I deserve that award because I'm actually good at what I do and I work really, really hard. And having those realizations they were kind of transformative things within myself that allowed me to get to the next level where I would own the fact that I'm good at this level, And I think society in some ways doesn't it doesn't really encourage women to take and grasp their own successes and own them and say, yeah, I worked for this and I deserve it. And in fact, I deserve the next level as well. So learning how to do that for myself was a big deal at multiple points in my career.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think people often lack like the confidence almost to like assert themselves, and I think that that's definitely like kind of a part of the problem that women are often taught not to um, like not to advocate for themselves almost, or like that's somehow seen and perceived as like a negative trait, and whereas like a man would be more encouraged to do so. So I think that that's like really a great point, and something that like hopefully these types of things will like change the perspective of women and like how they handle.
Yeah. And like, I would never suggest that the reason why women aren't getting ahead is because they're not advocating for themselves. But I would say that I knew the research showing that when I advocate for myself, I will be viewed more negatively than a man advocating for himself. I knew that going into every situation where I had to speak up for myself. And it makes it hard to know that you're going to be judged more harshly. But I also, reflecting on my own value as a human being that is smart and works hard and deserves this, I think really helps. So I went through a couple of times where I wrote out lists of all the ways that I am absolutely essential to whatever project it is I was working on, to whatever team I was on, for my own benefit. Just to be like, yeah, I'm pretty critical here. And so I deserve whatever it is that I'm asking for. And my ideas are excellent. And I think also it has helped me to help others. And I don't mean helping others like the self-sacrificial kind of throwing myself on the dagger type helping. I mean, in meetings when it's just me, one other woman, and a whole bunch of men, learning how to amplify those other women's voices has been very empowering for me. So when another woman has thought and it is immediately kind of repurposed and then accepted by a bunch of men without credit, learning how to say, that was a really great idea that my female colleague had. And I'd like to emphasize that it came from her. So thank you for that. And then, doing that actively throughout my life to help the voices of women in science to really get their due, to be heard properly, and to be respected for the value that they bring into the room. So that has been huge for me also. Has been learning how to be not only a self-advocate, but an advocate for traditionally marginalized voices in STEM. And it has been remarkably empowering to help try and empower other people, believe it or not. And it's definitely helped my own career.
Yeah, I think that definitely makes sense. And it's like hopefully what going forward more people will do, because, sometimes it becomes like a competition between women in their field. And I think that's like a huge issue as well. Like working together is definitely the way to move forward.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting. I haven't come across as much of that. I have been so fortunate, particularly in recent years, to have just really strong, not just women mentors, but women sponsors who are willing to go out of their way and make sure that I get the opportunities that my male colleagues are getting, and make sure that they are the ones bringing me up in meetings saying, "Did you hear about what Julia did? It was incredible." So I now have goals for when I'm senior faculty, when I'm in charge, that I want to be a sponsor, like some of the women that I've, been fortunate enough to interact with. So having those role models in leadership, there aren't a there aren't as many as I wish, right? I wish it was half of all people in leadership in STEM were women. It is obviously not. But I now have a vision of what that looks like, and I have a path to get there. And I really credit those women who came before me, who are now turning around and making sure that there's another generation to follow them. So I do think perhaps in business there's maybe more competition between women, but within the STEM fields, I think it's been pretty clear. We're pretty research driven, and the research shows that women who turn around and help other women are really driving success. So I've felt that myself, and I've been incredibly grateful for it.
I think that's great. Definitely good. I think helping each other again is like great and definitely the way to go.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's great, and especially I like your point about like these people, they've like kind of had to make the path, and now they're making sure that other people can follow it as
Mm-hmm.
well.
Yep, they're turning around and checking on us, which I think is incredibly powerful.
Yeah. So I guess there's only one more question left, and that is, what is your personal message to young women entering the STEM fields?
I would say thank you. You're wanted, you're needed, you're valuable. Know your own worth, but also don't let anyone tell you how to do it. I had a long, winding path to get where I am, and I don't regret one single second of it. And there's no right way to do things. You don't have to be or act or take the same path as a man in order to get where you want to go. You forge your own path. You foster mentor relationships. But there's no one right way to do it. So your way is not wrong. You're doing it right. Believe in yourself. Surround yourself with people who support you to the extent possible, and know that yes, it will be hard. But if you just persist, you can make a huge difference. That's one of the exciting things about, being kind of an underrepresented voice in STEM, is that there's a lot of space to make a difference at this point. And I think it's really exciting for young women and, people from traditionally underrepresented groups in science, to be able to come forward and really have a big impact on the next generation of scientists, and to be that mentor and to be that sponsor. And people entering science right now have the chance to do that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and made some really great points. So it'll be perfect for the video. So I do really appreciate it. Um, yeah, it's really cool talking to you. A lot of the stuff you're doing is super cool. So.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you very much for doing what you're doing. I think it's super inspiring. You are exactly the people, you're exactly the kind of person that makes me have hope for the next 50 years. It's going to be good because of people like you. So thank you.
It was great talking to you.
Great talking to you too. And if you have any other follow-up questions or anything else, feel free to contact me.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
You too. Bye.
Thank you.